On a recent video, someone posted a question asking how to create product variation within a WooCommerce product through automation. So in this video, I'm going to be breaking down how you can apply this to save yourself time in managing your website online shopping store. So if you're interested in getting this set up and learning some of the limitations of no code, then you've come to the right place. Let's get to it. Hi, this is Eric with Solve Cycle Solutions. I'm a no-code and automation specialist, and my job is to help save you time doing the work that you hate so that you can focus on what you love instead. And in this video, I'm going to be expanding on using Make.com to help you automate your WooCommerce product creation by showing you how to use the product variation module to automate different sizes and colors of products you may be trying to sell. I am offering free 30-minute consultations to anybody that fills out the form in the description of this video. So if you want to implement something that you've seen in one of my videos, if you're trying to already build stuff in no code and are stuck on something, or if you're completely new to this and want to see how much time you can save yourself in 30 minutes, then click the link in the description of this video and you can book a call with me as early as the next day. Now that we have that housekeeping out of the way, I want to just quickly pick up where we left off at the end of the last video. And if you find that you're either missing something or want to start from the beginning and see how you can automate this whole process for building a product with attribute variables, be sure to click the link to the video in the corner of this YouTube screen here. But we're going to try and pick up right where we left off to get back into the thick of things. So I have a database of products inside of SmartSuite. Each of these products has different variables based on size and color. When a product is sent through Make, it extracts those variables and applies them to a created product that we just built in WooCommerce and then labels those different variables. Inside of WooCommerce, we have the product for socks set up, and we have the attributes already imprinted through size with the different variations we have and colors with those variations as well. Now, the person that had asked this initial question was wanting to know if it's possible to create multiple product variations based on two different factors. They specifically were talking about size and color. Now, I'm going to show you how to extract those variables and apply them first in a single variable, because I will be upfront and say that is probably the only way that we can effectively make that. There is a slight workaround for trying to add multiple variables to this, but there are some limitations, and some of this, unfortunately, is just a restriction of no-code tools sometimes. These are not perfect systems. If you're willing to either put up with those workarounds or having to do just a slight bit of work, it can still save you a lot of time in the long run, and it may be worthwhile. I'll talk a bit more about that towards the end. Again, the last step that we did in the automation in the last video was to make an API call to basically write the specific size and color attributes that we're wanting to add for these products. In this case, like we said, socks the sizes were large, medium, extra large, and colors were blue, gray, orange, and purple. Inside of the body here, you will see there are lots of different data points from WooCommerce. And in this case, we have attributes, and you can see that we have the ID and the name, and then underneath these is an additional array for the sizes. What we're going to do is we're going to take those specific attributes and we are going to extract all of them. But then we have to use a special tool here called the table aggregator. The reason that I'm using the table aggregator here is because it allows us to combine multiple values and group them by a specific variable that we want. In this case, I am pulling information from the iterator, and we are only pulling the options that will be extracted from the option array. And we're able to go ahead and group those by the unique IDs that they have inside of the attribute array. So what this looks like once the system has run, you'll see that the iterator is able to pull out the specific bundles that we're looking for in terms of ID, option array, and you can even have name and color. It just extracts all that information. Once it is put into the table aggregator, you'll see that it is cleanly organized as the text of the attributes by the key, which is the ID, the attribute ID that we're looking for. So once we have the information organized in the table aggregator, we need to remap some additional variables. And the reason we're having to do this again, it makes sense both if you're doing this on a single variation or as a multiple variation, is that it really just helps making sure that the information you are pulling out is the exact information you're looking for, and it is going to then quickly map to the specific area that you want. And in some cases, it will help you organize or filter out data that you need to make sure that everything is working properly. So the two variables that we're looking to map are the attribute ID, which is going to be that key value from the table aggregator. And then the other item we're looking for is the attribute value, is what I've labeled it as. And basically we are taking the text, which you'll see that it is just listed here in the bundle as a text and not necessarily as an array. So we need to break that information down as using the split function to break each line of the text into a unique array, or basically a unique item that will be bundled into an array. So once this is completed, you'll see that the next step here, again, splits the variables into different categories. We have this for size, and we have color as well. Now, the next step that I have here is not something you necessarily need to do. I'm just using this more out of laziness to show you how to do both options of doing the product variation for one variation and if you have multiple variations. You wouldn't necessarily need to have a router, and you wouldn't need to have a filter for this particular single product variation. You would need to have an iterator though, which is basically just mapping the attribute values here from the set multiple variables function. And once you have that set up, you can have the product variation where you are collecting the product ID that we used in the previous Macon API call, or even the product. That's fine. And from there, you are going to set the attributes and turn on the map function. And you're going to set the attribute ID and the value that you have from the iterator, which again is going to break down each of those items as individual functions. And here is where you can also create additional pieces of information if you wanted. So if, for example, you are using size and have different prices for different sizes, as someone who is tall and a bit larger, I understand that I have to deal more with the extra fabric people have to make, so they're putting in different prices for extra large or extra tall. You could change the sale price. You could add unique SKUs. You could add modified descriptions that you could map from the SmartSuite files if you want. So that is entirely up to you how you map and carry that data. You basically just have to keep collecting a lot more information from the table aggregator if that's what you chose, or mapping different variables along the way. But since all I'm doing here is just adding these attributes and the values, that's all I have to do is toggle these two things on, put that there, and then I can hit OK. So in this case, I'm going to hop back into SmartSuite, and I'm going to use the create product for the socks. And you'll see that when I go over here, this should update, and we'll see that will be running in just a second, or if it hasn't already. There we go. It's working, and you see how you may not be able to see it in this video, but you'll see that all these pieces of information worked and filtered out as intended. And what this did here, once we broke down each of the variables that we were looking to implement, it ran the create a product variation 3 times. If I look into WooCommerce, I'll go back and look at the new product that I have here, and you'll see that I only have 3 variations mapped. It is XL, medium, and large, which, if I look back at my SmartSuite table, were the only sizes we had. Now, this can be said and done perfect, because if you're trying to create variants on sizes, this is perfect. If you have different colors for different items, and that's all you're looking to have variations on, this can be perfect, just mapping the one variable, and you're all set. If you're trying to create a product with multiple variations, there is a way that I was able to build this. It's not an exact perfect process, but it works for what we're trying to accomplish. The main thing that I've done, you may see I've cleared a bunch of things and reorganized some stuff, but the main thing is that we still have the set multiple variables, and we have an iterator here. But you'll see that it goes to a router and does multiple create a product variation here. Now, what I've had to do to make this work is that I've had to pick one of the attributes from my WooCommerce product and make that a constant. So in this case, I've made size the constant attribute that is going to help the other variations go through and map and organize all the combinations that we can. I have to first set up a filter where, after the set multiple variables is complete and we have our categories organized by the attribute ID, we are going to make sure that this filter does not let any of the attributes with size come forward. So that's why we have this mapped value of 1, because we know that the attribute ID for size is always going to be 1 inside of WooCommerce, because that was the first attribute that I put. If you put colors first and then size second, you would use size attribute ID as 2. So that may sound counterintuitive for what we're trying to do, but what's the goal is that we're going to have individual product variations for each size, and then we're going to map the colors to each size. So in this case, I have the XL option. I have manually typed this out in the map field, and I just put 1 XL, and then I add the mapped attribute ID and the value from the set multiple variables and the iterator that is going to break apart the individual text values. I've done this for the large. I've set this for medium. Now, the one thing you do need to make sure of is that this option text matches exactly what's in WooCommerce, because that's going to be how it identifies and maps this information. You will see here that it says a value will be ignored if the selected attribute for a product variation does not already exist. So that means that everything needs to be pre-programmed, which is why we had all these steps to put in everything into the API call to make sure that everything is matching perfectly. So these 3 modules are, like I said, for XL, large, and medium. You can add as many variations as you want here, depending on what sizes you're looking to add. So if I need to create one real quick, I can just clone a module, connect it to the router, and then I can just go in and quickly change the XL option to an S for small. So now that we have all of our product variations set up, I want to run this automation to show you how it works, and I want to show you again some of the limitations with this particular process that we have built. So I'm going to run this again for a new sock product, which again only has medium, large, and XL. We have a small setup here, but I want to show you what happens when you run this automation with something that doesn't exist technically within your attributes. So I'm going to go ahead and run this, and then I'm going to back out just so that we can see this start to run. And you'll see that it is running. It's going to create the product, and it's going to map all this information, and it's going to go through and create each variation in a cycle. So this is going to go through another 2 times before this completes. And you'll see that once that's done, it is building everything inside of Woocommerce, inside of your WordPress website. And this is the product that we have set up here for our completed variation. And you'll see that if I click into the variations, it's going to map everything by color, basically. So you'll see that the purples are all organized, the oranges are all organized, and then it's going to go through the variations of the cycle of different sizes here. Now, the only thing that's missing is that because there was no small already pre-built into this attribute, it's just going to list it as any size, and it has to be manually added. That, like I said, is the big hang-up for trying to create multiple product variations inside of this process. The 2 main things are, one, that at this moment, and this may be something that I can figure out, and if I do, I will happily make an update video on this, or if I find a better way to streamline this, but I don't have a way to currently filter out the specific sizes of the products that I'm trying to push through without removing the secondary variation. There may be some other ways to take extra steps to map these attributes, but for now, this was the best that I could come up with. The other issue, and again, I mentioned this earlier, but it is that the product variations chew through a lot of your operations if you have several different product variations. So here you can see this was done 16 times for these 4 items. If you had 10 different colors, this could go a lot more and be more expensive for you. Or if you also had a third variation, heaven forbid, you would have to then create another router on each of these individual product variations, and then add the specific product variations for that third item there. So it's a lot going on that you would need to map all this specific data to, and it can get very confusing. So hopefully most people will need just the single variation and can work through the limits of a secondary product variation here. But that is the final part of this 2-part WooCommerce product process that I spent a lot of time trying to work on, and despite the limitations that I said, I am actually very proud of how this came out. At first, I wasn't sure if I'd be able to map some of this information, but again, the nice thing about no code is that there are some hard limits within these types of programs, but they're always growing, they're always improving. So there may be something in a couple months, or knowing my luck, it'll come out the day this video is published, that there is a new function or a new way to calculate all possible combinations or matching all different variables in a matrix type data set. That is a complete possibility, but for now, this is what we have. And I, again, appreciate the comment that was posted on one of my videos in having this product process set up. I really enjoyed it. So If you have a question or want to see something implemented in no code that you're not sure will work, please feel free to put a comment in this video or any of my videos, and I would love to try and work through what people are hoping to accomplish and give them both the elation of having something that they can build themselves, or being upfront and saying that this is not a solution that can always work how you want it to. So I hope you got a ton of value out of this video. Be sure to reach out to me via email or through the form to book a free 30-minute consultation if you want to get no code set up in your own work life. But in the meantime, that's all I have to say on this topic. So thank you so much for watching, and take care.